Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kiana and I haven't posted in quite some time. I will say a year. It's probably almost two, but we're gonna say a year. So I am revamping my channel, and one of my revamping content is a series that I call Untold History. And Untold History, I will do my makeup in the meantime while I'm telling an untold history story that we have not learned in school, K through 12, and unless you go to college, and then even then you're not told these type of stories. So the first story that we're going to talk about is called well, it's not even a story, it's an event. First event we're going to talk about is the Red Summer of 1919. So I spent a lot of time researching this information, and while I was in the midst of doing it, again, I asked friends, family, things like that, and they were not told or taught any of this type of history. So, without me babbling, girl, where'd my primer go? So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into an untold history. So, Red Summer of 1919, something that we need to know to really set the mood. Let's really set the mood and get to where we are in history. So, one of the first events I'm going to give you a brief history on is the Great Migration. If you want a full video, we can do a full video, but right now it's just going to be a brief history. So the Great Migration began in 1910s, okay, and honestly did not end until the 1970s, okay. It is when Black Americans moved to northern states from the South to find higher wage jobs that were left behind by white men that went off to war. Okay, Black people migrated to Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, Detroit, St. Louis, DC, etc. Okay, at least 1 million Black people migrated north between the years of 1910 and 1920. We are in the year 1919. Causing civil unrest and anxiety among white people. Approximately 5 million more will make moves to northern states and midwestern and western states by the 1970s. Okay. Also, during this time, it is World War I, or the Great War. Okay. So, of course, from the moment that Africans were brought to the Americas, life has been shit, okay? We were slaves. We were segregated and discriminated against during Jim Crow laws. And by the time World War I rolled around, Black people all over the U.S. were eager for a chance to be recognized as full citizens of the country. Of course, this is not our first time being promised freedoms and citizenships and equality. Okay, we've been told this during the American War. We've been told this during the Civil War. And here we are in World War I being told the same shit. Okay. Okay. So, Black people were willing to do anything, even fight in a war that wasn't theirs, to be counted as equal. Okay? You see the shit? You see the shit? Okay. When America declared war, over 20,000 Black men were quick to enlist in the army to show their patriotism. That would quickly rise to more than 700,000 when the Selective Service Act was passed. Mind you, I do have my notes here on the side, okay? So despite honorable attempts to gain equality, it seemed like their actions were not because the military had previously been all white. There was no provision of military that trained Black service members. As a result, Black officers quickly found themselves subject to the same segregation that they faced at home. Okay. Of course, protests went out, cries were ignored. Okay. Following World War I, Black soldiers returned home bloodied and scarred in physical and mental ways. They returned home with the resolve and solemn dignity that only soldiers have. Okay? They returned to their friends and their families in search of peace and acceptance. Unfortunately, if there was a thing denied to the Black man, of course, it's peace. Many soldiers had the belief that things would be different once they returned home. They thought they finally had the recognition that they deserved, the acceptance that they deserved, but they were wrong. They returned to lives with segregation, discrimination, and racism, returned to small towns, big cities, and even places in between, full of small-minded people with hearts full of hatred. Okay. So, in result of that, Black soldiers would arrive back from war ready to fight racial discrimination and segregation. They were seen as threats to Jim Crow. They were seen as threats to Jim Crow and racial subordination. Many Black soldiers were not readily willing to return to the same treatment pre-war. So, again, Black people, we're going to war to prove ourselves as patriots. We're here, we're American, we're proud. Please treat us as equal. And then we come back from war and we're again still treated as second-class citizens, even though we just put our lives on the line for a country that hates us. So, girl, that's where we're standing. So, let's get into our main topic, which is the Red Summer of 1919. Okay? So, the Red Summer of 1919. This event affected at least 26 cities across America. During the months of April through November of 1919, there are approximately does not mean in total, okay? So approximately 25 riots that ensued in violence, okay? 97 recorded lynchings, and a 3-day-long massacre in Elaine, Arkansas. Okay. And also, if you did not know this, after the Civil War, the federal government shut down the KKK. Literally not even 20 years after the Civil War, the KKK had, actually, that's a lie. Let's say more like 40 years after the Civil War, the KKK had a resurgence. And it happened during this time, 1919. Resurgence to the KKK that we know today, okay? And they, of course, carried out dozens of lynchings throughout the South, okay? So again, following the ending of World War I, Black and white soldiers are returning home. White soldiers are upset that the jobs that they left were now filled by Black people that migrated north for a better living. The cities that they once knew were now becoming more diverse. And on top of that, Black workers, they already had a negative view on them because they crossed the lines during strikes in the Russian Revolution in 1917. So, girl, animosity was already there. Okay, they was racist, and then they came back and was like, "Oh shit, you took my job. I already don't like you, because literally 2 years before this, you over here again taking my job." That's what they saying in their mind. That's not me. That's what they saying in their mind. Okay. They also believe that Black workers were pawns of the Bolsheviks and anarchists. Girl, honestly, I don't even know what these people really expected. Like, you went out to war. Girl, life don't stop because you went off to war. We got to keep it moving. We got to keep it hustling. We got to keep it going, okay? Because just because you went off to war don't mean I got to stop eating. So the business did what they had to do. They had to keep going. Okay? The show don't stop. Well, of course, white people, they think the show stopped. Okay? They also feared that with Black veterans returning abroad and having military training, they wouldn't be willing to resubmit to political and social subjugation in the U.S., which their suspicion was true. As I stated, like, no one wants to go off to war and return home to continue to be treated as a second-class citizen. Again, everyone is expecting us to fight for freedom, but their own citizens, again, fighting wars for them, putting their lives on the line, are treated as second class. Nobody wants to do that, right? Okay. Black soldiers were now returning home again from war where they fought along white soldiers in the same conditions, where it doesn't matter where everyone came from or who they were or what they looked like. Everyone was treated the same for the most part. For the most part. Like, in the trenches, everyone was treated the same. Training, no. Living conditions, no. But trenches, everybody was there. Okay. Okay. But to go back home, again, to be treated as second-class citizen, it just wasn't acceptable anymore. It wasn't. Okay. So again, the soldiers, Black soldiers, they're coming home. So the Black leaders, okay, they were encouraging, our returning soldiers to assert themselves and fight for dignity and respect that they earned. Okay. For example, an infamous quote at the time comes from W.E.B. Du Bois, calling for the Black veterans to simply not return from fighting, but to return fighting. So do not just simply come home from fighting, and do not continue your fight for freedom and respect and dignity and equality. And at this point, it's not even equality, it's equity. But yeah. And within this time span of April returning home in April, okay, why my eyes look that wonky? Okay, many people were mistreated, and lynchings increased from 64 just the previous year. This is April. Previous recorded lynchings in 1918 was 64. April, when everyone was returning home, girl, that didn't jump to 83. 83. Exactly. You seen what we're getting into, right? Girl, you seen what we're getting into. And honestly, not even all of the violent riots and mobs were even done by the KKK. They weren't even done by the KKK. Guess who they were done by? They were done by Joe over here, little Joe, ordinary Joe, who's not affiliated by the KKK or any white supremacist group, just ordinary old Joe that came back. Came back and he mad because his job gone. Ordinary old Joe. Ordinary old Joe. He the one that's gathering people in this neighborhood and starting riots. He the one. Then KKK come in and join in. They were like, oh shit, Joe. Like, Joe? Girl, we asked Joe Jonas and he didn't join us. He said that shit. He said our shit wasn't right, but guess what he doing? Well, shit, let's go ahead and join Joe. So, okay. And of course, at the same time, a lot of these incidents, they ended up occurring over the year and were made worse because the local, state, and federal governments and agencies, they either hesitated to step in or they completely turned a blind eye. They completely turned their back on the people and let the violence ensue. Okay, that's the shit we on. And do you see a little similarity of the shit that we on then and the shit that we on now? Just saying. So while we're doing this, let's get into notable city violence. Okay? We're going to talk about 3 of them. First one being Chicago. Okay? Chicago, the date is July 27th, 1919. It's the beach. Young man named Eugene Williams. He's a teenager. Okay. He's at the beach. Let's also bring in to the fact that this beach is unofficially segregated. So officially, it's not segregated. But everybody around here, unofficially, this is segregated. You got a white side, you got a black side. So of course, Mr. Eugene Williams, a young black teenager, he is on the black side of the beach, enjoying his good old time. Okay, he accidentally swims over to the white side of the beach. Again, mind you, an accident. And what do racist white folks do? They start throwing stones. Okay? And of course, black people that are on the beach, they start throwing stones back. In the midst of it all, poor Mr. Williams here, he ends up drowning. He ends up drowning. The white people, they're throwing stones at his head. It hits him in the head. He ends up drowning. Okay? Now, this is just the beginning of what will be 13 days. I repeat, 13 days of violence in Chicago. 13 days. Okay. So going back, we haven't completed this day, but just saying. Okay. So of course, police officers, they show up and they arrest the black people, and they do not arrest the white people that were involved. So as the news spreads across the city, of course, tensions are escalating, and eventually fighting is broken out between gangs of both races, black and white. Okay, and again, for 13 days, as each riot happens, each single day, violence increases every single day. 13 days straight. 13 days straight. I repeat, 13 days straight. Violence is increasing every single day for 13 days. Leaving the city of Chicago in a state of turmoil. Well, obviously, 13 days. Okay, so in the aftermath, 23 black people and 15 white people were left dead. 537 people were injured, and over 1,000 black families were left homeless after mobs burned down their neighborhoods. Girl. "13 days, girl." Okay. At the same time, we are in Washington, D.C. Okay. One of the first people killed in DC's violence was a 22-year-old black veteran named Randall Neal. Okay. Mr. Neal here, he was killed in a parade welcoming back black soldiers from war. Okay, that parade was attacked, and we're gonna get into the story on how that information got to these violent people. Okay, so many of the people, not people, but many of the white-owned newspapers, they began printing fabricated incidents of black men assaulting white women. And for example, Washington Post ran the front page story advertising the location of the parade. So let's backtrack just a quick second. So newspapers, they are printing fake stories of black men assaulting white women. Again, to anger and get the rage started. And let's be real, this is not the first time we've noticed people using false claims against black men. We all know the infamous story of Emmett Till and how he was falsely accused of whistling white women and was killed. So this ain't something new. This ain't new. Okay? And we all know publicly now how a black victim of police brutality will they will try and discredit them from being a victim so much. Sorry, that looked a little nasty, didn't it? It went into my nose. It's like, it doesn't matter what they did in the past. At this point, it's like, what were they doing right then when they were getting caught? Or what they were doing when they were getting pulled over? Nothing illegal that could really cause them to do that. But, again, it happened anyway. And now, that person is dead. Sorry, I got makeup on my shirt. Anyway, back to our story here. So, the Washington Post, they printed a front page news story advertising the location of this parade for black soldiers. Then advertised this on the front news. Okay, for white servicemen to carry out attacks. Okay. So not only that, they were printing false stories. At the time, DC had a thriving black middle class that was expanding due to the Great Migration. Okay, many black people held jobs in the federal government, or at the country's first black-owned bank. So as black people were moving forward, the white people, they're like, hold on. We gotta stop this. They were like, nope, they can't thrive. No, can't let this happen. We're gonna have to stop this. So again, like I said, we in DC, right? You know who also in DC? The president. And the president at the time, Woodrow Wilson, was not doing shit. Stop the situation. Shit was escalating. But was he doing anything? No. Guess what he was doing? Just guess what he was doing. Did you guess? Did you come to the conclusion of nothing? If you did, you're absolutely correct. Okay? Because Woodrow Wilson, who also ran his campaign on racist shit, in support of that shit. Anyway, Woodrow Wilson, one of our worst presidents, but really, who was really good? Anyway, President Woodrow Wilson refused to act in stopping the violence. He felt that the riots would damage the United States' image of being a global patron of justice. The United States and being a global patron of justice. The United States being a global patron of justice. Girl, one thing Mr. George Washington got correct in his farewell address was that we need to stay out of other people's business. We need to mind our own business. Stay out of other people's business. And he was fully correct, because girl, almost 300 years later, after his exit, his farewell address, okay, we still in people business. We minding other people business. Why are we minding other people business? Okay, why did we go to the Middle East? Why the fuck did we go there? Girl, good question. Why the fuck did we go to Vietnam? Okay, if you want the story on the Vietnamese War and how they whooped our ass for not minding our goddamn business, let me know. Okay? But anyway, Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson. He let the violence ensue for 4 days. He let the violence ensue for 4 days. Okay? 4 days. After an estimated 40 people were killed and dozens were injured. After 4 days, he decided to send 2,000 troops to the city streets to shut the shit down. 4 days. You know how much we can get done in 4 days? That it took him 4 days to shut the shit down. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna come back and we are going to finish our final story, which will be Arkansas. Okay, when I'm done, I'll have my full face done and we will conclude. Okay, so we're back. Ladies, don't be like me. Remember to get lash glue. It was a struggle bus. Okay, anyway, Arkansas. From October 1st to October 3rd, a race war ensued in Elaine, Arkansas. On September 30th, a group of Black men and women gathered in a church to organize a sharecropper and tenant union. White officers interrupted, claiming to look for a bootlegger. Mind you, this is during the time where prohibition is happening. So, alcohol is illegal. They were claiming they were looking for a bootlegger. Why y'all go to the Black people? I don't know. You tell me. Okay. So, next thing we know, shots were fired. Okay. One officer was killed and the other was wounded. Okay. As word was spreading around the country, right? Like the local sheriff in Elaine, he sent a word for men to hunt Mr. N-word, E-R, in his lair. Okay. This rang across the South as hundreds of armed men hopped into trains and trucks and cars going to Arkansas. Okay. It said there were about 300 to 400 armed white men with guns killing men, women, children, don't matter. Okay. United States Army eventually restored order, but there were claims that the military did participate in the violence. Girl, so while I was researching this, it was said that literally they play like hunting games. If you weren't white, baby, you were a target. And it did not matter, again, if you are a child or if you are a woman, you were hunted down like cattle in your own home, in your own neighborhood. They went to your neighborhood to shoot you down. Okay? Now, in the aftermath, it was reported 25 Black people and 5 white people were listed as dead. Okay, these were just listed as dead, but like I said, over 300 to 400 armed men came to Lane to essentially hunt down not white, to essentially hunt down black people. Okay, they were hunting black people. They were shooting us down. Okay, it is rumored that perhaps 200 black people were killed in those 3 days, which I thoroughly believe. Only 25 people were killed? No. Let's be real now. Okay? 200, it's alleged that 200 black people were actually killed in those 3 days. Some rumors go around that they were dumped in the Mississippi River, and then others say they were left to rot in a crane break. I believe both ended up happening. That's just my personal opinion. In the aftermath, guess who didn't get charged with anything? Exactly. So white law enforcement, they charged the black unionizers. So the black people that were in the church trying to get a union for sharecroppers and tenants, they were charged with conspiracy to rise up and overthrow white planters, take their land, and rape their women. Of course, no evidence was found to substantiate the charges. Now, with that being said, the Red Summer of 1919 will eventually lead to the tragic events that will come 2 years later, being the Tulsa Massacre. So yes, the story we're talking about today, the Red Summer of 1919, is the precursor to what the big story that we know of the Tulsa Massacre that reached to be 100 years and still no justice for the people of Tulsa. Girl. And that's just one untold story. That's just one. Because, like, when I tell you, like, I was researching this and I would tell my friends, like, I'm doing this, and we were like, well, even my mom, who was a history teacher, like, they were like, I never heard of this story. Girl, there's so many stories in history that we do not know, that we aren't taught, especially in those states that have those mandated state tests, like Texas, for example. Once we get to the Industrial Revolution, baby, we're done. It's time for the state test. We're not learning nothing else. A lot of people do not go past that. And so a lot of people do not know the history of just the 20th century. Just the 20th century in America. A lot of people don't know that. That's why a lot of people believe, you know, segregation and Jim Crow was 100 plus years ago. I was like, no. A lot of these people are still alive. A lot of these people are your grandparents. So, I don't even know how to end this. I do not know how to end this. Girl. Let me know in the comments. Okay? Let me know in the comments what stories you want to hear. I'm hoping to do these type of videos, my new series, Untold History, along with pop culture and TV show reviews and movie reviews type of deal, also in my content. So, but I'm excited for this. Are you excited? If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. That is all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.